Hey, it's me, Vicky Marie. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you are in this crazy world we're living in. So, I've been thinking a lot about this poor lady up at Virginia Guiffre. Um, Gosh, now, of course, Virginia was the very high profile accuser of Prince Andrew and the Epstein, all the Epstein thing, and Ghislaine Maxwell, etc. Virginia was a victim when she was 17 years old. She said that she was trafficked she was recruited, wasn't she, by Ghislaine Maxwell. Then she was trafficked by Jeffrey Epstein. And one of the people she was trafficked to was Prince Andrew, according to her. He, of course, denies it, but of course, he did make a settlement with her. So it's just a bit of a mystery, isn't it, to think why would somebody, if they were innocent, make a settlement, an out-of-court settlement? But that's what happened. And then it sort of all died down. But poor Virginia, I think about, she had a very difficult life. Her life started with abuse within her own family or people known to her family when she was 14 and she ran away from home. She was working at Donald Trump's Mar-a-Lago estate when she met Ghislaine Maxwell. And she was a young girl recruited by Ghislaine. Ghislaine was, I think Ghislaine was in love with Jeffrey Epstein, but she didn't seem to mind sort of recruiting young girls for him to sleep with, even though she was clearly in love with him herself. It was a very strange relationship, wasn't it? And he was a horrible man. And I think you could safely say, oh, here's Riley, come and say that. I think you could safely say if it wasn't for people like Virginia, and especially Virginia, because she seemed to be the most high profile accuser because probably of this relationship with Prince Andrew. Jeffrey Epstein may still be alive and still abusing young girls to this day. It's only because he was found accountable, sent to prison, and then he's died in prison in whatever mysterious circumstances. Whether he did it to himself or somebody helped him along is not clear, really, I don't think, but doesn't matter. At least he's not out there abusing other young girls, is he? And the thing is, Epstein needs, so much money. He felt like he was untouchable, didn't he? And of course, he had contacts in high places, which we probably in my lifetime will never find out who the meat and bones of it, if you like, really. But anyway, and then of course, so very sadly, so then Virginia seemed to have escaped from Jeffrey. Got married, had children, and then it seems like the last few years of her life have been difficult for one reason or another. Difficult in her relationships. The thing is, that sort of trauma that she will have experienced, it doesn't just wear off, does it? And unfortunately, just a few days ago, last weekend, sometime over the weekend, Virginia apparently took things into her own hands and deleted herself. And poor Virginia, who knows whether Prince Andrew would have been sort of happy or sad about it. You'd hope that as a human being, he would be sad that this woman felt in the end that she had to do that to herself because of the life she'd led and the abuse that she'd suffered, and obviously she wasn't mentally completely stable. So I hope that there wasn't celebrations in the Prince Andrew household. Andrew and Fergie. In fact, I'm going to stop calling him Prince. I hate these titles for the royal family. He's Randy Andy. He'll always be Randy Andy to me, or the party prince. Whether he insists that he's never been a party prince or not, that's what he was famous for when he was young, being a party prince, being Randy Andy. Do they think that people forget? Not everyone's dead who remembers that. Like, it is within living memory. his antics that he used to get up to, and now suddenly, oh no, I've never been a party prince. Anyway, we'll see that in the interview. So I thought it was a good time to react to that. He did an interview with Emily Maitlis, I think it was in 2019, when he thought he was going to put all these rumours to bed because he thought the public was stupid enough to believe his lies. And Emily Maitlis, why he chose her to do the interview, I don't know. Again, because she's very sharp, very observant. She made this brilliant job of interviewing him, making him look an idiot without being disrespectful to him. Maybe made himself look an idiot, really, didn't he? And that's what we're going to look at. I'm going to react to it. I will then be releasing the video. You can watch the whole video on the internet, to be fair. I've got it loaded up already on my Rumble account because, of course, they're going to get me for copyright, I expect here. I think it was Channel 4 News that he spoke on, and it's not my interview, but I'm going to react to it. That is my reaction. So they shouldn't copyright that, copyright strike that. But, you never know. You just never know. It's my reactions and my reactions. But anyway, so we're going to look at that. That's what we're going to look at in this video. First of all, I just want to say thank you to everyone. Thanks for watching. Thanks for liking. Thanks for subscribing. Thank you for caring about Virginia. If you're watching this, I hope you did care what happened to Virginia, because, this sort of abuse and everything, it could happen to anyone. And I was watching a video of her lawyer being interviewed. And, they went into, before they took on Virginia's case, they made her take a lie detector test. They wanted to be sure. This is a lawyer, a very famous lawyer. It's an interview that he did with Piers Morgan. Very famous lawyer. He can command massive amounts for his services. He did it for free for Virginia. But before he did, so apparently his stock phrase is, everyone deserves a lawyer, but not everyone deserves me. This is his motto, his mantra. And I don't know if he approached Virginia or she approached him, he made her take a lie detector test. He looked into the case thoroughly. And it was only when he was certain, that what she was saying was the truth, that he took it on. And he did not charge for his services. He probably got a lot of publicity from it, of course. But I think that's important. Don't often get lawyers with principles, do you? Really? They deserve to be paid. I'm not saying they shouldn't be paid. But, like we've talked about defense lawyers and people that know someone's guilty, but they go along with it and that for the money. It's just it's not nice, is it? So it must be nice for a lawyer when they get to such a point in their profession that they can turn down cases if they want to. And they can only take on, the cases that they believe in. So I thought that was interesting. I have no doubt that Virginia was telling the truth. And I think this interview that Randy Andy tried to, pull the wool over the eyes of the public, thinking they were as stupid as he is, basically, because, he's not the brightest spark, is he? He thinks he is, thinks he's clever, thinks because he's a prince, everybody would just believe what he says. But of course, it was awful. It was a car crash interview, and it sort of sealed his fate, really, didn't it? That's what we're going to react to. So also, thank you to my members. Special thanks to my members, of course, and anyone who's PayPal'd me, bought me a Ko-fi, sent me a super sticker, sent me a nice email. I get such lovely comments and nice emails that people send. Thank you so much. So I'm going to take my banner off now. I'm going to say hello to see if anyone's in the chat at the moment. But hello, as always, to you lurkers, and some of you will be watching on catch up. Hi, thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, please. And if you're not subscribed already, please consider subscribing. It's absolutely free. Thank you. Okay, so before we get into it, hi Maria. There you go. That's twice in one morning I've caught up with you. Hi. And yes, of course, everyone, put your comments in chat as we go along. You don't have to agree with I'm going to make my comments. You don't have to agree with them. You can disagree with them. We're respectful, aren't we, to each other? We agree to disagree sometimes. We don't attack the person. If you don't, you attack the argument, not the person. Generally in my chat, we don't have many problems, but every now and again we do. So just be respectful. That's the only thing, isn't it, really? So first of all, let me know as well in chat, did you watch this interview at the time? What did you think of it? What do you think about the fact that Virginia has done what she did? I mean, do you feel sympathy for her? In fact, just before I start, I'm going to light a candle, because I do. I feel a lot of sympathy for her. I think there were other things going on in her life. I think she'd split up from her husband. That was obviously a factor, and somehow she'd become estranged from her children. We don't know all the ins and outs of all that. And then she'd had that strange accident with a bus, that she'd put that picture up of her with lots of bruising on her face and said she only had a short time to live, but then it turned out she was discharged. There's a lot more things going on, I think, with Virginia. Hi, Annie. A lot more things going on with Virginia. And, just very sad, I think, just sad, because she didn't have an easy life. And it was a lot, she suffered. Thing is, when she was young and all this would have happened, do you imagine if you were just working as a locker girl in Mar-a-Lago, Donald Trump's sort of, and then this sort of woman comes up and offers you the world. Don't forget, you're only 17. Oh, do you want to travel? We can take you here, can do this, and introduce you to royalty, famous people. Your head would be turned. Virginia is the victim. She's not the person to be blamed. She was 17 years old. So I think we have to remember that. Okay, let's have a look. So, as I said, I've loaded it up on my Rumble channel, which I don't use very often, but I thought I'll put it on there.
We've come to Buckingham Palace to
avoid problems. I should be sharing. Let me just check. I don't know what these adverts that come up at the side. Look, there's an advert coming up at the side there. Anyway, I don't use Rumble much. I just put it on Rumble because I thought it might help with copyright things, but maybe it won't. I don't know. Let's start then.
highly unusual circumstances.
What?
We've come to Buckingham Palace in highly unusual circumstances. Normally, we'd be discussing your work, your duty. We'll come on to that. But today...
Now, first thing I want to talk about is the setting. So it's Buckingham Palace, of course, the setting. Now, Emily, she starts off so deferential to him, and you can see he's loving that. He's puffing up like a toad. You know, he's like, she's like, oh, we're normally here to talk about your work and blah, de, blah, de, blah, de, blah. And you can see him like puffing up with self-importance. And also, I think it's clever the way she dressed, because she's obviously all covered up, all buttoned up, but it is sort of that jacket she's got on. I don't know if it's the buttons, but it's sort of sexy in an unassuming way, because obviously she's an attractive woman. Randy Andy, he loves attractive women. He's probably thinking, you know, he thinks he can get around any women. Basically, combination of being a prince, being the favourite son, being rich, all those things. This man has been entitled all his life, and he wouldn't be able to believe that anybody wouldn't find him so, riveting and so attractive. So I think Emily's clever in what she's got on, because it's attractive what she's got on, but in a very sort of sexy, as I say, in an understated way. She's buttoned right up top. I remember thinking that. When I first watched the interview, it was a very sort of sensible thing to wear, but also an attractive, it's not like completely, there's something sort of sexy about it, although it's not revealing, if that makes sense. But yeah, I think as well, just so clever the way she starts off, talking up his work, and you can literally see him inflate.
You've chosen to speak out for the first time. Why have you decided to talk now?
Because there is no good time to talk about Mr. Epstein and all things associated. We've been talking to Newsnight for about 6 months about doing something around the work that I was doing. And unfortunately, we've just not been able to fit it into.
Or literally the work he was doing, because of course, when all this came out and everything, it was like, he was just dropped from all his charities. He was like, persona non grata. He's like, and from what you're saying there, that's how he ended up doing it with Emily, doing the interview with Emily rather than the BBC. He probably would have been better off on the BBC, would he? I don't know. Because he was already planning to do some interviews with Emily about his work, his important work that he does.
Either your schedule or my schedule until now. And actually, it's a very good opportunity. And I'm delighted to be able to see you today.
As you say, all of this goes back to your friendship with Jeffrey Epstein. How did you first become friends? How did you meet?
Well, I met through his girlfriend back in 1999, and I'd known her since she was at university.
Yeah, so he knew, oh my God, I'm setting fire to my computer here, I think, with the candle. What am I doing? He knew, of course, Ghislaine's father, Robert Maxwell, was a big newspaper magnate, the owner of the Mirror Group of newspapers. And he also died in very mysterious circumstances. But so, yeah, Andrew already knew Ghislaine. And he refers to her as his girlfriend. This is what I don't understand. If you could you imagine recruiting young girls for your boyfriend? Why? It just doesn't make sense, does it? Oh, yes, my boyfriend, he likes young girls. I'm going to get some young girls for him. Whatever.
In the UK. And it would be, to some extent, a stretch to say that as it were, we were close friends. We were friends because of other people. And I had a lot of opportunity to go to the United States, but I didn't have much time with him. I suppose I saw him once or twice a year, perhaps maybe maximum of 3 times a year. And
you notice a lot through, I'm not a body language expert. I don't believe in body language. I think body language really, you can only really understand in hindsight. But Jules, if anyone had a face like he was lying, it's him, and he's shaking his head all the time. It's like he's saying one thing and he's shaking his head as well. If anyone ever looked like they were lying, it's him, as much as as I say, that I know or don't know about body language.
Quite often, if I was in the United States and doing things, and if he wasn't there, he would say, well, why don't you come and use my houses? So I said, that's very kind. Thank you very much indeed. But it would be a considerable stretch to say that he was a very, very close friend. But he had the most extraordinary ability to bring extraordinary people together. And that's the bit that I remember.
Emily's got her pen out. She's taking the notes there as she goes. Now, he's saying, no, he wasn't a good friend particularly. But if he wasn't a good friend, why did he go and see him later on, to talk to him about what he says in this interview? He went to see him. Remember that they were filmed in the park. And he said, oh, yeah, well, I just went to tell him I couldn't see him anymore. That's like something you do with your ex-boyfriend or your ex-girlfriend or whatever, or you don't, you're not with you. It's just ridiculous what he says. He went there to see him because he didn't want to put anything in a message or an email. He wanted to speak to him. And they went to that park to talk because they were probably worrying that he might have been being bugged in his actual apartment, because the FBI were on Epstein by then, weren't they?
Going to the dinner parties where you would meet academics, politicians, people from the United Nations. I mean, it was a cosmopolitan group of what I would describe as US eminence.
Was that his appeal then? Was that what you? Because you were.
So that's a bit worrying, isn't it? So it was this group of US eminent people. What Jeffrey Epstein? From what would he have? What would he have to do with eminent people? He wasn't a politician, was he? He wasn't, why were they there? Why were they all gathering round his house? Because he was just offering young girls. That's, so that's a worrying thing to say. You just think, why would Jeffrey Epstein be so? I mean, obviously he's rich. It's a bit like Elon Musk, isn't it? That kind of. I'm not saying that Elon Musk is doing things like that. I definitely don't think he's probably doing things like that. I don't like Elon Musk, but for other reasons. But they shouldn't be involved in politics just because they've got money. And who was he funding then? Was he funding a particular political party? What was Epstein's appeal to the what he just described as US eminence?
Perceived by the public as being the party prince. Was that something you shared?
I think that's also a bit of a stretch. I don't know why I've collected that title, because I don't. I never have really partied.
Do you know what I mean? So, like, everybody knew he has parted. The headlines before he got married to the Sarah Ferguson, the headlines were always about Andrew. Does he think that people have got such short memories? He was Randy Andy, he was the party prince, he was going out with the soft porn actress Koo Stark. He was always, look, again, it's just, every time I stop the video and you look at his face, you can just see, you can just tell he's lying. But it's not only that. I remember specifically his headlines. He was always in the papers because he was, the favourite son. He was supposedly. Oh, let's just have a look at this. Now look at these photos, the images. No, he never liked parties. No, never liked parties. So all these parties, even a Heidi Klum sort of bondage party. He was always being, going out with someone different at different parties before he was married. And he loved it. Look at this. Look, looks as high as a kite on most of these photos. So that was just a total lie, to say he didn't understand where he'd got this name from. So really, that was his first big lie, I think, in this interview. And it just went downhill from there, really, didn't it? More lies. But no, he doesn't understand. Well, no, he wasn't party prince. No, he didn't have the nickname Randy Andy for nothing.
I was single for quite a long time, in the early 80s. But then after I got married, I was very happy.
Again, he's shaking his head.
I've never really felt the need to go and party. And certainly going to Jeffrey's was not about partying.
No,
absolutely not.
Definitely
You said
not.
you weren't very good friends, but would you describe him as a good friend? Did you trust him?
Yes, I think I probably did. But again, I don't go into a friendship looking for the wrong thing, if you understand what I mean. I'm an engaging person. I want to be able to engage. I want to find out. I want to learn.
He's an engaging person. He's by his own admission, he's an engaging person. I think he used the wrong word there, because it sounded like he's blowing his own trumpet. But, a sociable person, maybe he is. And he's trying to cast around for something to say here. But anyway, he says it all wrong.
And so you have to remember that I was transitioning out of the Navy at the time. And in the transition, I wanted...
The other thing, take notice of here, how often he mentions being in the Navy, because he wants us to, he makes out he's, served in the Falklands War, like he wants to remind us of that as often as possible. Look at what, service he did for his country. So he was transitioning from the Navy.
To find out more about what was going on, because in the Navy, it's a pretty isolated business because you're out at sea the whole time. And I was going to become the special representative for international trade and investment. So I wanted to know more about what was going on in the international business world. And so that was another reason for going there. And the opportunities that I had to go to Wall Street and other places to learn whilst I was there were absolutely vital.
Vital. So, not sure exactly where the parties came in with that, or the young girls, or why he had to go to Epstein's Island. Was that vital then for this new role that he was just about to take on?
He was your guest as well. In 2000, Epstein was a guest at Windsor Castle and at Sandringham. He was brought right into the heart of the royal family at your invitation.
But certainly at my invitation, not at the royal family's invitation. But remember that it was his girlfriend that was the key element in this. He was the, as it were, plus one to some extent.
So Epstein was the plus one to Ghislaine Maxwell. But of course, what he's forgetting, or maybe this, because at this time, I think when this interview was made, they couldn't find Ghislaine, could they? She'd gone off, and wasn't she in hiding somewhere? I don't think she'd yet been prosecuted herself. So he has hoisted himself by his own petard, because he's making a big thing about his friendship with her. But of course, now she's in prison as well. For doing the same things, he's basically saying, oh no, I wasn't friends with Epstein, I was friends with his girlfriend. But of course it turns out she was just as bad as him. So he's trying to dig himself out of it, but he's actually just really looking back on it now, he's just made it worse for himself anyway.
In that aspect.
Am I right in thinking you threw a birthday party for Epstein's girlfriend, Ghislaine Maxwell, at Sandringham?
No, it was a shooting weekend.
Oh, a shooting weekend.
Just a straightforward shooting weekend.
It wasn't a birthday party, it was a straightforward shooting weekend. Oh, we know what they are, don't we? We all go on them, don't we? A straightforward shooting weekend. Not a birthday party. Now, come on, Emily, get it right. Was not a birthday party. It was a straightforward shooting weekend. And, who hasn't been on one of them? God, he's such a fool. He is. I'll tell you what, I bet his bloody media communications people, I bet they couldn't believe it when he did this interview. It's like watching someone sinking down. I think Andrew's of that generation of royal family that just think, oh, well, those peasants, they just have to accept what we tell them. How dare they question anything? He hasn't come into the social media world and realised, that people make their own decisions now. They don't have to believe all the crap the royal family puts out, or the media in general. They watch all different kinds of media and they make their own minds up. You know, we've got minds of our own now. We don't just do what we're told. And I think that's been a real problem for Andrew, because I don't think Andrew can believe that anyone could question him, because he's never been questioned his whole life.
But during these times that he was a guest at Windsor Castle at Sandringham, the shooting weekend, we now know that he was and had been procuring young girls for sex trafficking.
We now know that. At the time, there was no indication to me.
No indication to him at the time. Hi, old hippie. Thank you so much for your comment. Yeah, no indication to him at the time. You could, you know, of course, he knew. He knew. Well, he knew about Virginia anyway. Now, whether he knew about... Now, something very sad that, well, as I was sort of researching a bit into Virginia just before I did this, you know, there are two other women, two other victims of Epstein, not so high profile as Virginia, that also have deleted themselves. You know, so where does... See, I don't understand. How does Andrew... I mean, maybe what does he do? If he was to make some comment, maybe there's no comment he could make that, you know, apart from apologising. You know, the best thing that Andrew could do, really, I think, for anyone to have any respect for him whatsoever, would be he should have admitted it in the beginning. And maybe he didn't know she was 17. I mean, she was still too young for him. And of course, he was married and he had children. But you know what? That's not illegal, is it? But he could have just come clean. Come clean, because people know he did it anyway. So he's just making it worse for himself. And then making the settlement. Once he made that settlement, nobody makes a settlement of millions of dollars just because when they're not even guilty. Nobody. So he did that because he's guilty. Everybody knows it. Why doesn't he just admit it? But he's like, oh, no, I didn't know. I don't know what all these pubescent girls that were wandering around were. I mean, apparently it was as clear as day. They were on his private jet. They were all around his house. They were in all his houses. You know, it was people, they were not hidden away. You know, so anyone who says they didn't know, maybe they didn't know for certain, but they must have felt something.
Or anybody else, that was what he was doing. And certainly when I saw him either in the United States, when I saw him in the United States, or when I was staying in his houses in the United States, there was no indication, absolutely no indication.
Absolutely no.
And if there was, you have to...
He's like, there was no indication whatsoever. But if there was, oh my God, that reminds me of Richard Allen in the Delphi case, when it was like, if that bullet was found near those girls, it's not mine. Like, you know, not just, it's not my bullet. Or what was the other thing? He said, if that photo was taken by those girls that were murdered, it's not me. But if it wasn't taken by them, it might be me. You know, is that what he's saying? So he's saying there was no indication. But if there was, in other words, yes, there was.
To remember that at the time, I was patron of the NSPCC's Full Stop campaign. So I was close up with what was...
Oh my God, yeah, he was president of the NSPCC Full Stop campaign. So that's the National Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Children. He was president of one of their campaigns to try and stop exploitation of children. You know, how many more are there of the, you know, these, it's just chilling to think that he was, because you know what? Virginia would not have been the only one that Prince Andrew or Randy Andy or Party Prince, she wouldn't be the only one that was a victim of Prince Andrew. There'll be others who'll be too scared, or maybe they've been paid off as well. There's no way in this world she's the only one. You know, so it's quite scary, isn't it, really, to think that then he was sort of president of the NSPCC thing.
Was going on in those time about getting rid of abuse to children, so I knew what the things were to look for, but I never saw them.
So you would have made that connection because you stayed with him.
Do you know what? I knew what the signs were to look for, but I never saw them. Oh my God! You know, everything he says is just contradictory.
You were a visitor, a guest on many occasions at his homes, and nothing struck you as suspicious during that whole time.
Nothing.
Just for the record, you've been on his private plane.
Yes.
You've been to stay on his private island.
Yes.
You've stayed at his home in Palm Beach.
Yes.
You visited Ghislaine Maxwell's house in Belgravia in London.
Yes.
So in 2006, in May, an arrest warrant was issued for Epstein for sexual assault of a minor.
Yes.
In July, he was invited to Windsor Castle to your daughter, Princess Beatrice's 18th birthday. Why would you?
Yeah. So she's so clever, Emily. She lulls him into a false sense of security. Look at his face there. He's thinking, oh God, what am I going to say here? So after he's been charged, after Epstein was charged, all right, let's, you know, presuming what he's saying is true, that he never saw any signs, he had no idea. He went to all, you know, this wasn't just a one-off thing when he went to his island or went on his plane or went in his houses. You know, this is many times. And then finally, when Epstein was charged, he then invited him to the birthday party of, was it Princess Eugenie? She was a young girl. You know, how could he do that? Now he's thinking, see, that's his thing. You can almost hear the cogs whizzing in his head. Oh God, what am I going to say here?
Do that.
Because I was asking Ghislaine. But even so, at the time...
Yeah, I was asking Ghislaine. I wasn't asking him. He was the spare, was it? He was the other one, plus one. He was the plus one. So imagine that then. So, okay, right. So you're inviting, even if it was your sister, inviting her to your child's birthday party, but you'd be saying, but you're not bringing that boyfriend of yours who's just been charged with exploitation of a minor. He's like, oh, well, it was Ghislaine's boyfriend. I was inviting Ghislaine. I wasn't inviting him. God.
I don't think certainly I wasn't aware when the invitation was issued what was going on in the United States. And I wasn't aware until the media picked up on it, because he never said anything about it.
He never discussed with you the fact that an arrest warrant had been issued. No. So he came to that party knowing police were investigating him.
Well, I'm not quite sure whether was it police that I don't know. You see, this is the problem.
It was the Palm Beach police at the time.
But I mean, I'm afraid, you see, this is the problem. Is that an awful lot of this was going on in the United States, and I wasn't a party to it, and I knew nothing about it.
Oh my God. Of course you didn't. Of course you didn't. Because your good friend Ghislaine, she didn't tell you about it then, did she? Nobody told you about it and you didn't know. So you're talking about a member of the royal family. Now, what I can't understand is, now, maybe because he's not heir to the throne, I don't know. But if you have a party, I would imagine if you're anyone in the royal family, surely the security staff would check out everyone who was being invited to that party, wouldn't they? Security checks, background checks, just to make sure, even if he didn't know about it, surely his security people should have known about it.
In 2008, he was convicted of soliciting and procuring a minor for prostitution. He was jailed. This was your friend. How did you feel about it?
Well, I ceased contact with him after I was aware that he was under investigation. And that was later on in 2006. And I wasn't in touch with him again until 2010. So I just it was one of those things that somebody's going through that sort of thing. Well, I'm terribly sorry, I can't be.
So no contact.
No contact.
When he was serving time, there was no call, no letter, nothing there.
No.
He was released in July. Within months, by December of 2010, you went to stay with him at his New York mansion. Why? Why?
Yeah, there you go. So he said he stopped contact with him when he went to prison. Now, what's he going to say now? So why did you go and see him? And this is just incredible to me. He's saying he's going to tell you that he went there because he wanted to tell him face to face. You wouldn't even have to go. Do you know what you do? You're a member of the royal family. You're a prince. You're a prince in the royal family. You wouldn't even contact him directly. You would get your security people to contact his security people or contact him direct and say, don't contact Prince Andrew again. You are persona non grata in the royal household now. You wouldn't have to contact him at all himself, would he? You'd have people who do that for him. You know, it's just the most ridiculous lies. And you know what? This is what's so annoying about Andrew, is his lies are ridiculous ones, not even good lies. You know, and he's just assuming. When he did this interview, he just thought he's been indulged all his life, and you know, he's a prince. He's been, you know, welcomed into society, into American society, because he's a prince. You know, do you think really if Prince Andrew was just Joe Bloggs from up the end of the road, he would ever have been in this position? Of course he wouldn't. He was like a trophy to Epstein, wasn't he? Look who else I've got here. I've got this prince, the Prince of England. You know, it's like he's a trophy to be shown off. And so because of that, he seems to think that people really did believe him or like him, or, you know, not think he's an idiot because everyone was indulging him. Started with his mother and carried on with everybody else. So, yeah, this is a ridiculous thing he's saying, because he did not have to contact Epstein. He could quite easily have got somebody else to contact him, say, look, don't contact Andy again. You know, you're not wanted. He won't reply to you. He's having nothing to do with it. He should have done it through someone else.
Why were you staying with a convicted sex offender?
Right. I have always... ever since this has happened, and since this has become, as it were, public knowledge that I was there, I've questioned myself as to why did I go.
There's one simple 7-second brain trick anyone can use to activate their super brain.
I won't be doing it on Rumble again. I've never used to have these.
What was I doing, and was it the right thing to do? Now, I went there with the sole purpose of saying to him that because he had been convicted, it was inappropriate for us to be seen together.
We went all the way to America just to tell him that.
And I had a number of people counsel me in both directions, either to go and see him or not to go and see him. And I took the judgment call that because this was serious, and I felt that doing it over the telephone was the chicken's way of doing it. I had to go and see him and talk to him.
So, do you believe that? He thought that doing it over the telephone was the chicken's way of doing it? It's just the most ridiculous thing. He's not your ex-boyfriend. You know, you're not finishing a relationship with a boyfriend. This is a guy that you yourself said wasn't really much of a friend. You know, he only really knew him because of Ghislaine Maxwell. You know, and now he's saying that he was, even though he was not really his friend, he felt obliged to go all the way to America to finish this friendship. It's like Jack and Ori, isn't it? It's like, my God, you know, Tales of the Unexpected or something. You couldn't make it up.
And I went to see him, and I was doing a number of other things in New York at the time. And we had an opportunity to go for a walk in the park. And that was the conversation.
So So we had an opportunity to go for a walk in the park. As if they'd go for a walk in the park. The only reason they went for a walk in the park was because probably they thought there were bugs in the apartment, like listening devices. You know, that's why they went for a walk in the park, to talk. And they didn't realise that they were being followed and, you know, there were cameras filming, but of course couldn't hear what they were saying. That's why they went to the park, so that the conversation could not be recorded. Could you just imagine? Oh yeah, let's go for a walk in the park. Yeah, like a bloody a couple or something. I'm surprised they weren't holding hands. So let's get it straight, Andy. You went all the way to America to finish your friendship with this man that wasn't really your friend anyway. He was just a friend of your. He was just the boyfriend of your friend. Whatever.
Coincidentally, that was photographed, which was when I said to him, I said, look, because of what has happened, I don't think it is appropriate that we should remain in contact. And by mutual agreement during that walk in the park, we decided that we would part company, and I left, I think it was the next day. And to this day, I never had any contact with him from that day forward.
So he left the next day. He was staying in his place. So he had one more night there with a few more girls before. And the thing is, what's really irritating about this as well is, you know, Andrews can say what he wants about his contact with Guiffre, because Guiffre's not there to say anything back, because Guiffre's deceased. And, you know, so basically whatever Andrew says, there's nobody to challenge what he said. Of course, he didn't go for a walk in the park to finish a friendship, and then he stayed another night. You know, this is Prince Andrew. Why didn't he just book into a hotel? It's not as if he's short of money, is it? You know, he stayed there because he had one last party, I expect.
What did he say when you told him that you were breaking up the friendship?
He was what I would describe as understanding.
Yeah, whatever.
He didn't go into any great depth in the conversation about what I was doing and what he was doing. Except to say that
there's a Freudian slip there. He didn't go into any detail about what I was doing. He was doing. He's and when he realizes he's said something wrong, you can see it as clear as day in his face. He really is not the sharpest tack, this guy. I don't expect any of the royal family are that intelligent, to be honest. They're so interbred.
That he'd accepted whatever it was, a plea bargain. He'd served his time, and he was carrying on with his life. You see what I mean? And I said, yes, but I'm afraid to say that's as may be. But with all the attendant scrutiny on me, then I don't think it is a wise thing to do.
Who advised you?
So there's a lot of stumbling over his words. Now, you know what they say, if you tell the truth, you don't have to think about it. Do you know what I mean? You don't have to remember what you said the last time. You can see with Andrew, he's very hesitant about what he's saying. He's probably trying to think, what has he ever said before? He doesn't want to contradict himself. And I think this is about the point where he's sort of realizing this interview's it's not working. She's not doing what she's supposed to. She's asking too many questions. And she's just making too many notes and seeing through what he's saying.
You then that it was a good idea to go and break up the friendship. Did that come from the palace? Was Her Majesty the Queen involved?
No. That came from. So there were a number of people who so some people from my staff, some people from friends and family I was talking to, and I took the decision that I had to show leadership, and I had to go and see him, and I had to tell him, that's it.
That was December of 2010.
Yep.
I had to show leadership. I had to go and tell him. Oh, God, what an insufferable prig this man is.
He threw a party to celebrate his release, and you were invited as the guest of honor?
Oh, in 2010, that certainly wasn't a party to celebrate his release in December, because it was a small dinner party. There were only 8 or 10 of us, I think.
So there wasn't a party. It was just a small dinner party. I'm surprised it wasn't a shooting weekend. Didn't you do a shooting weekend, Andrew? That's what you normally do, isn't it? So he's going, no, it wasn't a party. It was just a small dinner party. There was only about 10 of us there. I mean, he's just Prince Andrew or Randy Andy, really, it's like, how do you know when he's lying? Because his mouth's moving. So he started off saying, no, he didn't have a party. And then it's a dinner party. And as I say, it probably ended up being just a simple shooting weekend.
The dinner. If there was a party, then I'd know nothing about that.
You were invited to that dinner as a guest of honor.
Well, I was there, so there was a dinner. I don't think it was quite as you might put it, but yeah, okay. I was there at a dinner. Yeah. I'm
just trying to work this out, because you said you went to break up the relationship, and yet you stayed at that New York mansion several days. I'm wondering how long.
But I was doing a number of other things while I was there.
But you were staying at the house of a convicted sex offender.
It was a convenient.
It was a convenient place to stay. So this is Prince Andrew, who's got plenty of money to book into a hotel. He's staying in the house of a convicted sex offender. And he's just saying, no, it was a convenient place to stay. And then she's saying, you were invited to that party. You went to the party for his release. He said, no, it wasn't a party. It was just a dinner party with 10 people. And she said, you were the guest of honor. And he goes, oh, I don't know if you'd put it like that. Why didn't he just say, yes, it was a stupid thing to do? I don't know. But he's he's getting uncomfortable now. You can see he's getting uncomfortable now.
A place to stay. I've gone through this in my mind so many times.
No, you haven't.
At the end of the day, with the benefit of all the hindsight that one can have, it was definitely the wrong thing to do. But at the time, I felt it was the honourable and right thing to do.
So it was the honourable and right thing to do, to go and stay at the house of a convicted sex offender. He did it because he's an honourable and right person. That's why he did it. Not because he was involved in any way, for God's sake. And then he's saying, the benefit of hindsight. Yeah, do you really need you might need hindsight when you were looking back and thinking, why did I not see someone was a sex offender? I'll go along with that. But when someone's actually been in prison for being a sex offender, that's not hindsight. You knew they were a sex offender. That's not the benefit of hindsight. You knew it then. It's not something you found out later. You knew it. You went to the party to celebrate him coming out of prison. Honest to God, everything. So it just gets worse from now on, doesn't it?
I admit fully that my judgment was probably coloured by my tendency to be too honourable, but that's just the way it is.
Oh God! Oh, my judgment was coloured by my tendency to be too honourable. Oh, Andrew, poor Andrew. If he wasn't so honourable, he wouldn't have found himself in this position, would he? If he wasn't such a good, honest, person, he would never have found himself in this unfortunate position. It's just because he's so honourable. That's why. Oh my God, we should all, feel sorry for him. Obviously not.
Because during that time, those few days, witnesses say they saw many young girls coming and going at the time. There is video footage of Epstein accompanied by young girls. And you were there staying in his house, catching up with friends.
If they were, then I wasn't a party to any of that. I never saw them.
No.
You have to understand that his house, I described it more as almost as a railway station, if you know what I mean, in the sense that there were people coming in and out of that house all the time. What they were doing and why they were there, I had nothing to do with. So I'm afraid I can't make it.
No, you can't make any judgment on it because there are people coming and going all the time. So notice he doesn't say, oh, I didn't see any young girls coming and going. Of course he did. He knew exactly what they were doing. I'm sure he had the company of a few of them himself. Virginia obviously would not have been the only one. It just ridiculous what he's saying.
Any comment on that? Because I really don't know.
Another guest was John Brockman, the literary agent. Now, he described seeing you there.
Really? Oh my God. Oh, look, he can't believe that. John Brockman.
Railway station, if you know what I mean, in the sense that there were people coming in and out of that house all the time. What they were doing and why they were there, I had nothing to do with. So I'm afraid I can't make any comment on that because I really don't know.
Another guest was John Brockman, the literary agent.
He's like, what? John Brockman? He's like, oh, I didn't know he was there because, of course, John Brockman saw him.
Now, he described seeing you there, getting a foot massage from a young Russian woman. Did that happen?
No.
You're absolutely sure, or you can't remember?
Absolutely sure.
So John Brockman's statement is false.
Well, I don't know Mr. Brockman, so I don't know what he's talking about.
But that definitely wasn't you.
I don't know him, so I don't know what he's talking about. You know, just ridiculous.
You getting a foot massage from a Russian girl in Jeffrey Epstein's house?
No.
It might seem a funny way to break off a friendship, a 4-day house party of sorts with a dinner. It's an odd way to break up a friendship. It's a difficult way of putting it. That's a very
stark way of putting it. Yes, you're absolutely right. But actually, the truth of it is that I actually only saw him for about the dinner party, the walk in the park, and probably passing.
He only saw him for the dinner party. So why did he go for a walk in the park when he had other guests there? And then, of course, maybe he didn't see him because he was too busy having his feet massaged by that young Russian girl. But this is where it just gets like really, really blatant.
In the passage.
So let's go to that Central Park walk, which was snapped. Friends of yours suggest that Epstein wanted that photo taken. Perhaps he'd even set it up. Do you worry that you were being played?
Again, new information is coming out since his suicide has made us reappraise that walk in the park. We can't find any evidence, or my staff and my people and I can't find any evidence to suggest that that was what he was doing. I mean, you can look at it in so many different ways. The fact of the matter is that somebody very cleverly took that photograph. It wasn't, as far as I remember, nor do my security people remember anybody being present or close.
He has an unfortunate time with photographs, doesn't he? I think it's probably true that Jeffrey Epstein set up that photo. And I think it's probably true that it was him who took the other photo with Virginia, the photo that's there on the screen. And I think Jeffrey Epstein probably blackmailed famous people, do you know? Probably invited them to these parties, took some sort of evidence, videos, photos or whatever. And that was a way of blackmail. And I think probably Andy was set up a little bit there. But, you know, he's like, but notice there how he mentioned suddenly it's we. This, me and my staff, this, that and the other. Whereas his staff obviously weren't competent enough just to get in touch with Jeffrey Epstein and say, look, Andy doesn't want anything more to do with you. He's not coming over to see you. It wasn't we then. He felt he had to do that. And he took that leadership decision, according to him, of going off to do the honourable thing and, finish the friendship with the man who was not really his friend. Oh, he's really tripping over himself now.
Because there were enough security around. I mean, there are photographs of the security people are around in the photograph. So I mean, he could have done, but
yeah. I guess what I'm asking is, do you feel that you were part of Epstein's public rehabilitation?
Oh, no. Funny enough, I don't. No. I mean, if that photograph was taken with that purpose in mind, then it doesn't equate to what actually happened.
So why wouldn't you announce this breakup when you got back? Why wouldn't you publicly explain what you'd done? Did you worry that he had something that could compromise you?
No.
Yeah.
No.
Do you regret that trip?
Yes.
Do you regret the whole friendship with Epstein?
100% Epstein had something that could compromise him. 100%. That was what Epstein did.
Now, still not. And the reason being is that the people that I met and the opportunities that I was given to learn, either by him or because of him, were actually very useful. He himself, not, as it were, as close as you might think. We weren't that close. So therefore, I mean, yes, I would go and stay in his house, but that was because of his girlfriend, not because of him.
Was that?
There's one simple 7-second brain trick anyone can use to activate their super brain and use it to improve their wealth, health.
So the thing is, of course, so what he's saying there, and what he's saying all along is his girlfriend was his friend, really, rather than Epstein. But of course, he could have just told her to tell Jeffrey Epstein, just tell him. I mean, they'd understand that, wouldn't they? He's just come out of prison for, abuse of a minor. If Andrew had turned around to Ghislaine and said, look, I can't, be in contact with him anymore because of this, she would have told him that. There's no way he had to go there. He went there. There's something more to it, and he knows it.
The only time you saw him after he was convicted,
yes.
Did you see him or speak to him again?
No, that was that. Funny enough, 2010 was it. That was it, because I went. Well, first of all, I wanted to make sure that if I was going to go and see him, I had to make sure that there was enough time between his release, because it wasn't something that I was going into in a hurry, but I had to go and see him. I had to go and see him. I had to
stay with him and stay in the house.
I could easily have gone and stayed somewhere else, but sheer convenience of being able to get a hold of the man was. I mean, he was in and out all over the place.
He was in and out all over the place. No comment.
So, getting him in one place for a period of time to actually have a long enough conversation to say, look, these are the reasons why I'm not going to. And that happened on the walk.
July.
Would he have even he would have known the reason. There's only one reason why I didn't want to see him anymore or have any more contact with him, because he was a convicted sex offender. You don't have to go for a walk in the park to say that.
This year, Epstein was arrested on charges of sex trafficking and abusing dozens of underage girls. One of Epstein's accusers, Virginia Roberts, has made allegations against you. She says she met you in 2001.
Now, I don't know if you noticed there, but when she said one of his abusers, Virginia Roberts, look at her face. She knows exactly what he is. He gulped. He gulped because he knows that he's been waiting for this to come. Let's just watch that again. As soon as she mentions Virginia's name, look at that. Would you buy a used car off that man? Would you buy a used car off that man? Look at his face. Anyway, let's watch his little gulp when she mentions Virginia. Poor Virginia. I tell you what, Virginia, Thank God for you, because otherwise Epstein and him as well probably would still be doing what they were doing.
Not going to. And that happened on the walk.
July of this year, Epstein was arrested on charges of sex trafficking and abusing dozens of underage girls. One of Epstein's accusers, Virginia Roberts, has made allegations against you. She says she met you in 2001. She says she dined with you, danced with you at Tramp nightclub in London. She went on to have sex with you in a house in Belgravia belonging to Ghislaine Maxwell, your friend. Your response?
I have no recollection of ever meeting this lady. None whatsoever.
You don't remember meeting her?
No.
She says she met you in 2001. She dined with you. She danced with you. You bought her drinks. You were in Tramp nightclub in London. And she went on to have sex with you in a house in Belgravia.
He's getting redder and redder as she carries on talking. That he's angry now. You can see he's angry.
Belgravia, belonging to Ghislaine Maxwell.
Didn't happen.
Didn't happen.
Do you remember her?
No. I have no recollection of ever meeting her. I'm almost, in fact, I'm convinced that I was never in Tramps with her. There are a number of things that are wrong with that story. One of which is that I don't know where the bar is in Tramps.
He doesn't know where the bar is in Tramps. Oh my God. Now, it could be true that I don't expect he's ever had to buy a drink in his life, because he's Prince Andrew, isn't he? Oh my God, no, he doesn't buy drinks. People buy him drinks, supply him with drinks. So it could be true, but Virginia said that he did. I know who I believe, put it that way. But how can you not know where a bar is? You know, I mean, what? It's like saying, you know, this is a nightclub. It's not it's not Borneo. It's not like the bloody rainforest or whatever. It's a bar. It's a discotheque. How can you not know where the bar is? Is it that difficult? Even he's not that thick that he can't find the bar in Tramps. It's ridiculous.
I don't drink. I don't think I've ever bought a drink in Tramps.
Yeah, he may not have bought a drink, that's for sure, but he doesn't drink. He looks higher as a kite on most of his photos. Maybe didn't drink now as he's doing this interview, but of course he drank then. He was the party prince. He was Randy Andy. He's forgetting that we all know what he was like. His picture was in the Sunday papers every week.
Whenever I was there.
Do you remember dancing at Tramp?
No.
No.
That couldn't have happened because the date that is being suggested, I was at home with the children.
Oh my God, and the way he brings his children into it. So it definitely couldn't have happened. He couldn't have been dancing on that date because he was at home. He was at Pizza Express, remember?
You know that you were at home with the children. Was it a memorable night?
On that particular day that we now understand is the date, which is the 10th of March, I was at home. I was with the children. I'd taken Beatrice to a Pizza Express in Woking for a party at I suppose sort of 4 or 5 in the afternoon. And then because the Duchess was away, we have a simple rule in the family that when one's away, the other one's there. I was on terminal leave at the time from the Royal Navy, so therefore I was at home.
Why would you remember that so specifically? Why would you remember a Pizza Express birthday and being at home?
Because going to Pizza Express in Woking is an unusual thing for me to do. A very unusual thing.
Oh, shut up. Oh, shut up. He's smug. Look at he's like a toad, isn't he?
From the Royal Navy, so therefore I was at home.
Why would you remember that so specifically? Why would you remember a Pizza Express birthday and being at home?
Because going to Pizza Express in Woking is an unusual thing.
He's so contemptuous. Yes, oh God, because he was doing an ordinary thing, going to Pizza Express. Nobody believes you. Surely, where's the receipt? Surely, do you know, like somebody would know if he really did go to Pizza Express or not. His security people would know, or Pizza Express would remember, but not Pizza Express in Woking. Remember Randy Andy coming in
for me to do.
Oh, look at that duping delight there. Look at that face. Oh God, oh my God, horrible man.
A very unusual thing for me to do. I've only been to Woking a couple of times.
So he nearly said, I've never been to Woking. No, you've never been to Woking. It's much too far beneath you, Andrew, isn't it, to go to Woking, let alone Pizza Express. He keeps like making Freudian slips all the time.
And I remember it weirdly distinctly.
Shaking his head, I remember it distinctly.
But as soon as somebody reminded me of it, I went, oh yes, I remember that.
Yes, I remember that.
But I have no recollection of ever meeting or being in the company or the presence.
So you're absolutely sure that you're at home on the 10th of March.
Yeah.
She was very specific about that night. Mm-hmm. She described dancing with you and you profusely sweating, and that she went on to...
Oh, yeah, this is the thing with the sweating, isn't it? Yeah, I didn't like it that she said that. But anyway, he didn't sweat at the time. At the time. Now, he had a condition at the time, which meant he didn't sweat. But he does sweat now, apparently. But he was sweating there.
To have bath, possibly...
There's a slight problem with the sweating, because I have a peculiar medical condition, which is that I don't sweat.
Oh God. I mean, did he take the leadership decision to make this interview? Because you know what, he couldn't have done much worse, could he, if he would have tried?
Or I didn't sweat at the time, and that
I didn't sweat at the time, so I presume he's saying he didn't at the time, but he does now, just in case anyone gets a photo of him sweating at any point.
That was, actually, yes, I didn't sweat at the time because I had suffered what I would describe as an overdose of adrenaline in the Falklands War.
So it brings up the war again, you know, because don't forget he's a hero. You know, he fought in the Falklands War, and whenever he gets into trouble, he brings up his, you know, his service record. So, yeah, he ended up with this condition because of not sweating, because of the foot. Don't forget, I served in the Falklands War.
And I was shot at.
And
I simply, it was almost impossible for me to sweat.
Almost impossible to sweat, but not now.
And it's only because I have done a number of things in the recent past that I'm starting to be able to
sweat.
Do that again. So I'm afraid it's...
Oh my God. Oh my God. So, yeah, he doesn't mention any of the things he's doing, any of the medical things he's done to, now he's able to sweat again. Absolute garbage, this man talks.
Say that there's a medical condition that says that I didn't do it, so therefore...
Is it possible that you met Virginia Roberts, dined with her, danced with her in Tramp, had sex with her on another date?
No.
Do you remember meeting her at all?
No.
No.
Do you know
Lying.
You didn't meet her, or do you just not remember meeting her?
No, I have. I don't know if I've met her, but no, I have no recollection of meeting her.
Because she was very specific. She described the dance that you had together in Tramp. She described meeting you. She was a 17-year-old girl meeting a senior member of the royal family.
Never happened.
She provided a photo of the two of you together.
Yes.
Your arm was around her waist.
Yes.
You've seen the photo.
I've seen the photograph.
Yeah, look, he's like, oh, not that photo again. So, of course, the photo's there in the bottom left-hand corner. And Epstein took that photo, apparently. I think Epstein probably took a lot of photos, videos, you name it. All these famous people, he's sort of like, you know, definitely was probably blackmailing quite a lot of people, I imagine. And, you know, Andrew, at the end of the day, people like Andrew are not exactly, the sharpest tack in the box. They'd be easy to manipulate into a position where they got a photo taken. It's a simple photo, but, he must, that one sort of second of his life that photo was taken, that's be what he'll really regret, because he did not see the reason behind it.
How do you explain that?
I can't. Because I have absolutely no memory of that photograph ever being taken.
Do you recognize yourself in the photo?
Yeah, it's pretty difficult not to recognize yourself.
Your friend suggested that the photo is fake.
I think it's from the investigations that we've done, you can't prove whether or not that photograph is faked or not, because it is a photograph of a photograph of a photograph.
Oh, going back now to the investigations we have done, suddenly it's we. Is that the royal we? Or is that him and Sarah, or him and his security team? All this team he's got behind him, but he couldn't even get one of them to send Jeffrey Epstein an email to say he didn't want to see him anymore.
So it's very difficult to be able to prove it. But I don't remember that photograph ever being taken. But
it's possible that it was you with your arm around
That's
her
me, but whether that's my hand or whether that's the position, I have simply no recollection of a photograph ever being taken.
Reminds me of the Profumo scandal. I've never met that woman or whatever. How many times has this happened with things like this? I mean, obviously it's him, and it's in the photo. If they could have proven it was a false photo, they would have done. That's the photo. He will regret forever, isn't it? And poor Virginia, they're 17 years old, and now Virginia is not with us anymore. It's just a foul man.
The world has now seen the photo that Virginia Roberts provided, taken by Epstein, we understand, in Ghislaine Maxwell's house.
Well, here's the problem. I've never seen Epstein with a camera in my life.
I think it was Virginia Roberts' camera. She said a little Kodak one that she lent to Epstein. He took a photo, and your arm is round her waist.
I don't remember that photograph ever being taken. I don't remember going upstairs in the house, because that photograph is taken upstairs. And I'm not entirely...
If he never went upstairs in the house, how does he know it was taken upstairs? Because he never went upstairs, so why would he even recognise the upstairs?
Convinced that, I mean, that is what I would describe as me in that picture, but we can't be certain as to whether or not that's my hand on her whatever it is, left side.
You think that...
Because I have no recollection of that photograph ever being taken.
So why would somebody have put in another hand? You think it is you next to her in the photo?
Oh, it's definitely me. I mean, that's a picture of me. It's not a picture of... I don't believe it's a picture of me in London, because when I go out in London, I wear a suit and a tie.
I mean, it's just... It can't be him in London, because when he goes out in London, he wears a suit and a tie. So it can't be him in London. Of course not. Goodness.
That's what I would describe as, those are my traveling clothes if I'm going overseas. So there's a
Well, they're his traveling clothes that he only wears when he goes overseas. So it can't have been taken after Tramp nightclub, according to him. I wonder what he wears for a shooting weekend.
I've got plenty of photographs of me dressed in those sorts of sort of kit, but not there.
Just to clarify, so you think that photo has been faked?
Nobody can prove whether or not that photograph has been doctored, but I don't recollect that photograph ever being taken.
No, he's not actually saying, if he fingers...
You don't recollect having your hand.
Has the photo been doctored or not? He can't even answer that straight. You know, if he knew for certain that was not him in that photo, in that upstairs that he's never been in, but he knows it's upstairs, why doesn't he just say, no, it's definitely faked? But he won't even say that, will he?
No. Round her waist in Ghislaine Maxwell's house on any occasion, even if it was a different date.
I'm terribly sorry, but if I, as a member of the royal family, and I have a photograph taken and I take very, very few photographs, I am not one to, as it were, hug, and public displays of affection are not something that I do.
Right, okay, let's just, that's a lie for a start. So public displays of affection are not what I do. So let's go back to those photos. So this is Andrew, yeah? Look, that woman's licking him. But he doesn't know, no displays of public affection. He's got Heidi Klum with her hand on his shoulder. He's with whoever this woman is, with his arms around her waist. You know, glistening in sweat on this photo. You know, he's such a liar, and he thinks, has he forgotten the photos that have been taken of him? No, it's just ridiculous.
So that's the best explanation I can give you, and I'm afraid to say that I don't believe that photograph was taken in the way that has been suggested.
Why would people not believe that you were there?
I'm sorry, why would?
I'm just trying to understand. There's a photo inside Ghislaine Maxwell's house. Ghislaine herself is in the background. Why would people not believe that you were there with her that night?
Well, they might well wish to believe it, but the photograph is taken upstairs, and I don't think I ever went upstairs in Ghislaine's house.
But how does he know it's upstairs?
Yeah, because the dining room and everything was on the ground floor. Was as you came in.
Well, where did he sleep? Where did you sleep, Andrew? Did you not go upstairs to sleep? Anyway, if you never went upstairs, I don't even know how you know it was upstairs.
As you came in the hall. So I don't remember ever going up there. I'm at a loss to explain this particular photograph. If the original was ever produced, then perhaps we might be able to solve it. But I can't.
You can say categorically that you don't recall.
That's why he won't say categorically that photo has been faked, because one day the original photo might come out, because, you know, he doesn't know, does he, what the FBI have got or haven't got. So one day the original photo might come out and it might show that it's real. So that's why he will not say categorically when she tried to press him, no, it's definitely a fake. He wouldn't say that.
Or meeting Virginia Roberts, dining with her, dancing with her at Tramp, or going on to have sex with her in a bedroom in a house in Belgravia.
I can absolutely categorically tell you it never happened.
Do you recall any kind of sexual contact with Virginia Roberts then or any other time?
None whatsoever.
Because she said in a legal deposition, a legal court document in 2015, she had sex with you 3 times. Yeah. She is not confused about this. She said the first was in London when she was trafficked to you. The second was at Epstein's mansion in New York.
That is a date in April, I believe. Is that correct?
She said it was a month or so later.
Yeah. Well, I think that the date that we have for that shows that I was in Boston or I was in New York.
Make your mind up, Andrew. So something as important as this, and he can't, he's come into this interview. He doesn't even know where he was, when he was. Something as important as this, and he still hasn't got it clear. And that's because he's telling little porcupines and he's forgetting what he said, and he's got to think about it. If you're telling the truth, you don't have to think about it.
Previous day, and I was at a dinner for the Outward Bound Trust in New York, and then I flew up to Boston the following day. And then on the day that she says that this occurred, they'd already left to go to the island before I got back from Boston. So I don't think that could have happened at all.
There was a witness there, Johanna Stolberg, who says that you did visit the house in that month.
I probably did. I don't think on one of the weird things, I was staying with the because of what I was doing, I was staying with the Consul General, which is further down the street on Fifth. So I wasn't staying there. I may have visited, but no, definitely no activity.
No activity.
Because in a legal deposition, 2015, she said she had sex with you 3 times. Once in a London house when she was trafficked to you in Maxwell's house.
Yes.
Once in New York a month or so later at Epstein's mansion, and once on his private island in a group of 7 or 8 other girls.
No.
Whatever,
No.
Andrew. No, definitely not. Oh.
To all of it.
All of it. Absolutely no to all of it.
So I was just wondering what he's saying that he did do on Epstein's island. So he's admitted he went to the island. He was seen there by the people that were working there as well. Wasn't he seen with Virginia, I think? What's he... there'll be photos, I'm sure. Photos, probably videos too.
Why would she be saying those things?
We wonder exactly the same.
Who's we?
But I have no idea. I have absolutely no idea.
She made these claims in a US deposition.
Mm-hmm.
Are you saying you don't believe her? She's lying.
That's a very difficult thing to answer, because I'm not in a position to know what she's trying to achieve, but I can tell you categorically, I don't remember meeting her at all. I do not remember.
Something I've come to realise is when people say categorically, they don't mean it. Categorically not in the river. Categorically, whenever someone says categorically not, you think, no, there probably were. It's like, it's just, it seems to be a word that people use. Look at his face. Literally, would you buy a car off that man? Would you trust that man, with your children? Uncle Nobbed there. Do you know what I mean? And I know who I believe. Virginia had her demons, but there's no reason why she should say it if it wasn't true. He has so much more to lose than she did. She was telling the truth.
A photograph being taken, and I've said consistently and frequently that we never had any sort of sexual contact, whatever.
She spoke about you outside the court in August of this year.
So he's just said we never had any sexual contact. But before he was saying he'd never met her. Now suddenly he remembers specifically they had no sexual contact. He just contradicts himself with everything he says.
She said, I quote, "He knows exactly what he's done, and I hope he comes clean about it."
And the answer is nothing.
So if Virginia Roberts is watching this interview, what is your message to her?
I don't have a message for her, because I have to have a thick skin. If somebody's going to make those sorts of allegations, then I've just got to have a thick skin and get on with it. But they never happen.
For the record, is there any way you could have had sex with that young woman or any young woman trafficked by Jeffrey Epstein in any of his residences?
No. And without putting too fine a point on it, if you're a man, it is a positive act to have sex with somebody. You have to take some sort of positive action. And so therefore, if you try to forget, it's very difficult to try and forget positive action. And I do not remember anything. I can't.
Doesn't remember anything. Doesn't remember anything. And yeah, well, there you go. Just have to believe him or not believe him.
I racked my brain and thinking, oh, well, when the allegations came out originally, I went, well, that's a bit strange. I don't remember this. And then I've been through it and through it and through it over and over and over again.
I mean, that just doesn't make sense, does it? So when the allegations first came out, he said he thought about it and thought about it. You wouldn't need to think about it. Either you slept with her or you didn't. Do you know what I mean? It's like, you know whether you did or you didn't. You don't have to think about it. So what is he saying? Did I sleep with her? You know, was she one of those people that I slept with? You know, because you either slept with someone on Epstein's island or in one of his houses or in Maxwell's house, or you didn't. Doesn't matter whether it was her or not. Did you or not? Why did you have to think about it?
And no, nothing. Never happened.
Never.
Epstein's housekeeper, also in a Florida court legal deposition, said that you visited the Palm Beach residence around 4 times a year. You got a daily massage.
4 times a year?
That was what he said in a Florida court legal deposition.
No.
I'm just wondering, when you look back now, is there a chance that those massages might have been the services of someone who was being sexually exploited or trafficked by Epstein?
No.
No.
I don't think. I mean, no, definitely not. Definitely not. And I definitely did not visit his Palm Beach house 3 or 4 times a year. Absolutely not.
How many times would you say you visited?
In total, probably 4 times. In total, throughout the time that I knew him.
Yeah, the blinking
In fact,
yeah, look, blink, 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 blink. Think about it. Oh, God, what do I say here? What should I say? And, of course, it doesn't say he visited only 4 times. Did he have a massage? And was he massaged by a young girl?
probably that was the place that if you see what I mean, he was in the house more there than in other places that I was.
So that's where you'd find him.
But it was usually because I was going through and on somewhere else. So it was a day. That was it.
Yeah, it was a massage. He just went there for his massage.
You said in your statement from the palace,
Yep.
at no time did I see, witness, or suspect any suspicious behavior.
Yep.
Virginia Roberts' legal team says you could not spend time around Epstein and not know what was going on. You could not spend time around Epstein and not know what was going on.
If you are somebody like me, then people behave in a subtly different way. You wouldn't, first of all, I'm not looking for it. That's the thing. If you're looking for it, then you might have suspected now, with the benefit of a huge amount of hindsight and a huge amount of analysis, you look back and you go, well, was that really?
There's one simple 7-second brain
Sorry
trick
about that.
anyone can use to activate their super brain and use it to improve their wealth, health, and relationship
I think
situations.
Andrew could do with that advert for his
The way
super
that
brain.
it was, or was I looking at it the wrong way? But you don't go into these places, you don't go to stay with people looking for that.
You could not spend time around him. That was what they said. You could not spend time around him and not know.
Look, the other aspect of this is that I live in an institution at Buckingham Palace which has members of staff walking around all the time, and I don't wish to appear grand, but there were a lot of people who were walking around Jeffrey Epstein's house. As far as I was aware, they were staff. They were people that were working for him, doing things.
Yeah, they were.
As it were, I interacted with them, if you know what I mean, to say good morning, good afternoon. But I didn't, if you see what I mean, interact with them in a way that was, what are you doing here? Why are you here?
He doesn't say good morning or good afternoon to anybody. Everybody says what a rude, ignorant twonk he is. He's full of his own importance. He doesn't speak to the little people.
What's going on?
But you'd notice if there were hundreds of underage girls in Buckingham Palace, wouldn't you?
But you would notice if there were hundreds of underage girls in Jeffrey's house. Wasn't there? Not when I was there. Now, he may have changed his behaviour patterns in order for that not to be obvious to me. So I don't know. I mean, this is, you're asking me to speculate on things that I just don't know about.
You seem utterly convinced you're telling the truth. Would you be willing to testify or give a statement under oath if you were asked?
Well, I'm like everybody else, and I would have to take all the legal advice that there was before I was to do that sort of thing. But if push came to shove, and the legal advice was to do so, then I would be duty bound to do so.
So what he did instead was he paid her off. He paid her off, but he's not guilty. Never met her, never danced with her, never was there, doesn't swear, all those things he's just said. And then after this interview, he paid off Virginia Guiffre.
As you've said, there are many unanswered questions. Yep. Everyone affected wants closure. You would help to provide that closure.
If in the right circumstances, yes, I would, because I think there's just as much closure for me as there is for everybody else. And undoubtedly, some very strange and unpleasant activities have been going on. I'm afraid to say that I'm not the person who can shed light on it.
Oh no, he's not the person. So these unpleasant activities were going on, but he's not the person that can shed light on it. Oh no.
For a number of reasons, one of which is that I wasn't there long enough. If you go in for a day, 2 days at a time, it's quite easy.
Long enough for what? How long does it take, Andrew? Doesn't take long, does it?
Yeah, I'm led to believe for those sorts of people to hide their activities for that period of time and then carry on when you're not there.
Yeah.
Virginia Roberts' lawyers, legal team, say that they've asked for a legal statement from you. There is an active FBI investigation now. Would you be willing to provide that?
Again, I'm bound by what my legal advice is. Legal advisors tell me.
Epstein was found dead.
Yep.
In prison.
Yes.
In August of this year.
Yep.
What was your response on hearing that he'd died?
Shock.
Some people think that...
I think he's got a bit of duping delight there. He seemed to be a little smile on his lips there.
He didn't take his own life.
Well, there again, I'm not one to be able to answer that question. I believe that centers around something to do with a bone in his neck.
He's so thick, Andrew, because he says, he thinks it's funny for a start. This is his friend, that he says he didn't care, he wasn't really a friend, but he went all the way to America to break off their relationship. Then he's laughing and they said, I can't speculate on that, but was it something to do with a bone in his neck? I'll just have a little speculation.
As to whether or not, if you commit suicide, that bone breaks or something. But
he obviously knows all
I'm not an expert. I have to take what the coroner says, and he has ruled that it was suicide. So...
look at that. He's dying to laugh. Oh, yeah, the coroner ruled that it was suicide. Little smirk. He's got to take what the coroner says. Dear me, Andrew, you honest to God, has nobody ever told him that he cannot lie? He's not a good liar. Some people can lie quite well. He's not one of them.
He's dead. His girlfriend, Ghislaine Maxwell, your old friend, was, victims say, complicit in his behaviour.
Well, that bit I can't help you with because I've no idea.
Do you think that she has questions to answer about her role in this?
in the same way that I have questions to answer in the sense of what was I doing, and as I say that I was there to my mind, be honourable and say to him, look, you've been convicted.
That's the second time he said that. He was there to be honourable in his mind. Do you know, it's breathtaking. But the problem for Andrew is he hasn't got a poker face. So he's doing all these lies, but he's not good at lying.
It would be incompatible for me to be seen with you. Unfortunately, somebody was standing around with a camera at the time and got a photograph of us. It's one of the very few photographs there are of us, but that was the case. If there are questions that Ghislaine has to answer, that's her problem. I'm afraid I'm not in a position to be able to comment one way or the other.
When was your last contact with her?
It was earlier this year, funny enough, in the summer, in the summer.
About what?
She was here doing.
In the spring, summer. Well, you know, there's 3 months difference between the spring and the summer.
Some rally.
So even though he had by then been arrested and was facing charges of sex trafficking?
No. This was early spring, I think. It was long, because when was he arrested?
July.
No, it was before July.
Oh yeah, when was he arrested? Oh no, it was before that. But he had to fight. So he said, because he said summer first of all, in the summer. Then he changed it to spring. Then it was early spring. Then he asked her when was he arrested, and she said July. Oh no, it was definitely before that.
And that was the last time?
Yeah.
Did you discuss Epstein at all then?
No, not actually. Funnily enough, no, not at all. There wasn't anything to discuss about him.
Of course you would discuss him. So there's your friend that you've known for God knows how many years. He kept saying how Ghislaine was it. She's such a friend of it. She was invited to his children's birthday parties and God knows what, to which, according to him, Epstein came as the plus one. This is a friend he's known for years. Her boyfriend is in prison and they've not even discussed it. Come on.
Because he wasn't in the news. It wasn't, it was just, we'd moved on.
Oh, we'd moved on.
I want to talk about moving on.
So good job that Prince Andrew moved on, because poor Virginia, she never moved on, Andrew.
Oh, yeah, right, okay.
Epstein is dead.
Yes.
The women are...
Oh, did you hear that? Epstein is dead, yes. It's not funny, is it, that he's dead, really? Oh, God, is it? The more I watch this now, I'm thinking he probably had something to do with it, because he's jubilant that he's dead.
We'd moved on.
I want to talk about moving on now.
Oh, yeah, right, okay.
Epstein is dead.
Yes.
The women are now being heard.
Quite rightly.
How do you move on from this?
Well, it's an interesting way of putting it. I'm carrying on with what I do. I have a number of things that I have been doing since 2011. They're pretty well organized, pretty successful, and so I'm carrying on and trying to improve those things that I'm already doing.
I wonder what effect all this has had on your close family. You've got daughters of your own.
It has been what I would describe as a constant sore in the family. We all knew him. And I think that if we have a conversation about it, we're all left with the same thing of what on earth happened? Well, how did he get to where he was? What did he do? How did he do it? And so it's just a constant sort of gnaw. I mean, this first came out in 2011, and it was a surprise to all of us, because the photographs were published at a separate time to when I was there, and there was sort of a question about what was going on, and as a family we discussed it. And then in 2015, when the allegations were made in the deposition, there was a sort of there was a sort of this is the immediate family, not the wider family. The wider family couldn't be more supportive, but the immediate family, it was, well, what's all this about? And we all just we're at a loss. So it's just.
Has the episode been damaging to the royal family, to Her Majesty the Queen?
I don't believe it's been damaging to the Queen at all. Has to me.
Oh my God, of course it was damaging to the Queen. She's your mother, poor woman. Because she, you know, having said that, she did cover up for him a lot, didn't she? But he's like the Stefan Stearns, isn't he, of the royal family? You know, he has his mum thinking he's bloody brilliant and he can't do any wrong. And, you know, okay. But he's an absolute twonk.
And it's been a constant drip, if you see what I mean, in the background that people want to know. If I was in a position to be able to answer all these questions in a way that gave sensible answers, other than the ones that I've given that gave closure, I'd love it. But I'm afraid I can't. I'm just not in a position to do so because I'm just as much in the dark as many people.
How do you reconnect with the public?
But exactly what I'm doing, which is to use and to continue to work with pitch. To continue to work with idea and the things that I believe strongly in. I'm not somebody who does things in competition with people. Oddly, I do things in collaboration with people. So I want people to work together to come to, as it were, a solution to a bigger problem. And so I got a number of people working together, particularly in the education field, particularly in the...
Get natural relief from migraines and headaches with AccuLeaf. Doctor approved and recommended. AccuLeaf puts pressure on,
and also in areas of government and what they are doing, so that we're bringing everybody together, so that we're all pushing in the same direction. An idea now does that. We've been going properly now for 2 years. We've got 3.5 million people who've got a badge. We've got 500,000, or just over 500,000 young people who are using the service. And I'm trying to think what else we've got, but it's well, it's.
Well, of course, he got the sack from everything, so we won't be doing that. I don't know what he is doing now, to be honest.
Designed for 7 to 14-year-olds in the United Kingdom.
Oh, no.
And it turns out it's done from 5 to 95 around the world. So it's being done in 100 countries now. So we're slightly on the catch up for this one.
I know we have to bring this to a close because we're running out of time. You've faced questions today on a very, very raw subject. There has never been an interview like this before. I wonder what that tells us about the way the royal family now confronts these difficult situations. Has there been a sea change?
I think that the problem that we face in the 21st century is.
So notice he was going to say I, and then he said we. He said the problem I'm facing. Social
media. There is a whole range of things that you face now that you didn't face 25 years ago because.
He's so angry about that, isn't he? Yeah. The problem he's facing is social media. But of course, social media means that people are finding out the truth about things. He's really angry about that. Because years ago, when he was party prince and this, that and the other, and Randy Andy, you know, it was in the newspapers and things, but it wasn't like social media now. You know, he can't get away with anything now, can he?
It was just the print media.
Yeah,
and I think that to some extent there is a thick skin that you have to have, and again, I'm not a confrontationalist myself. I would prefer to be able to, as it were, resolve things in a way that is sensible, and so. Choosing to, as it were, get out there and talk about these things, it's almost a mental health issue to some extent for me, in the sense that it's been nagging at my mind for a great many years.
Yeah, I'm surprised he hasn't pulled the mental health card. That's the only thing he hasn't done, actually, is it? You know, he's not declared that he's autistic or he's got ADHD or, you know, all these things that a lot of people that are guilty of things seem to be coming out with at the moment. Give him that.
I know that I made the wrong judgment and I made the wrong decision, but I made the wrong decision and the wrong judgment, I believe, fundamentally for the right reasons, which is to say to somebody, I'm not going to see you again. And in fact, from that day forth, I was never in contact with him. The subsequent allegations are what I would describe as surprising, shocking, and a distraction. But that's, I mean, there are all sorts of things that are on the internet and out there in the public domain that we just sort of go, well, yeah, but I'm afraid this is, it just never happened.
You've talked about a thick skin. I wonder if you have any sense now of guilt, regret, or shame about any of your behavior in your friendship with Epstein.
As far as Mr. Epstein is concerned, it was the wrong decision to go and see him in 2010. As far as my association with him was concerned, it had some seriously beneficial outcomes in areas that have nothing to do with what I would describe as what we're talking about today. On balance, could I have avoided ever meeting him? Probably not. And that's because of my friendship with Ghislaine. It was inevitable that we would have come across each other. Do I regret the fact that he has quite obviously conducted himself in a manner unbecoming? Yes.
Unbecoming? He was a sex offender.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm being polite, in the sense that he was a sex offender. But no.
He's like, she's a good interviewer, Emily, because she sort of like picks him up on things without being too aggressive and shutting him, because if she was too aggressive with him, that would shut him down completely. So yeah, he behaved in a manner that was unbecoming, and she says, well, unbecoming, he was a sex offender, convicted.
Was I right in having him as a friend at the time? And bearing in mind this was some years before he was accused of being a sex offender. I don't think there was anything wrong then.
Yeah, but you did see him after, didn't you, Andrew? Come on. I think he's a terrible liar, because the lies he tells don't make sense. You can tell just from looking at him he's lying. You know, I would see through him in a moment, because he just does not come over as genuine. The problem was the fact that once he had been convicted,
you stayed with him.
I stayed with him, and that's the bit that as it were, I kick myself for on a daily basis, because it was not.
Yeah, he's laughing again. Yeah, he kicks himself on a daily basis. Of course he does. Because what should have happened was, the only way that Andrew could ever have got out of his association with Jeffrey Epstein, and of course there is the photo as well, but the only way he could have even stood a chance of coming out of this was as soon as Jeffrey Epstein was, charged. He should have got his security staff or to just let him know that's it. He should have even said publicly, you know, that's it, I'm severing, you know, he was a friend and I didn't know what he was up to. Now I know, that's the end of it. He didn't do that. He did not do that. And that is the worst mistake he's made.
Something that was becoming of a member of the royal family. And we try and uphold the highest standards and practices, and I let the side down.
Oh my God, we try and uphold the highest standards and practices. Now that's a load of cojones for a start, because look at Prince Charles, Charlie boy. Look what he was up to with Shamila all those years. Look at Prince Philip, what he was up to. You know, there's only ever the Queen who's been really beyond reproach, isn't it? Princess Anne, she was having an affair with Shamila's husband, wasn't she, at some point? You know, they're all at it. They're at it like rabbits. And he's trying to say, but, you know, because they're posh and they do it, it's like it doesn't seem to matter, you know what I mean? They're just like posh bloody chavs, really. That's what they are. Just chavs with money. They're all at it. And now he's trying to say we try and uphold the highest standards. Who in the royal family tries to uphold the highest standards? Even William with his pegging scandals and things. You know, come on. God, you just think people are stupid.
Simple as that.
Well, this interview has been exceptionally rare. You might not speak on this subject again. Is there anything
No, we didn't.
You feel has been left unsaid that you would like to say now?
No, I don't think so. I think you've probably dragged out most of what is required,
and even a little bit more. Hey, Andrew, and there he is smiling again. There's a lot of smiling going on, so he's not really bothered by any of it, is it? Is there? You know, he's not really bothered. He's only bothered about he's not bothered about all the girls or about Virginia or about anything else. He doesn't give a toss. And he's found it quite funny. He's trying to have a little flirt even now with Emily. But you know what, Andrew, it didn't work because women really, it's a different age we're living in now. No one's impressed that you're a prince. No one's impressed that you've got money. Well, I'm certainly not anyway. But, I mean, there probably are women out there that are, I don't know. But do you know what I mean? He's not the party prince anymore. He's not Randy Andy anymore. He's not this young, handsome prince anymore. He's like, well, it feels like what he is now. He's a sex offender, a middle-aged sex offender. That's what he is to most people.
I'm truly grateful for the opportunity that you've given me to be able to discuss this with you.
Your Royal Highness, thank you.
Thank you very much indeed.
Yeah. Yeah. So it was an interesting interview. Yeah, Heather. Snidey grinning. Yeah, snidey grinning. Yeah, exactly. You'll never be held accountable for what he did. You know, he's been held a little bit accountable in just the sense as he's a bit persona non grata. But he turned up at the Easter service, didn't he, apparently this year? But of course, now Virginia has done what she's done. I don't know how that will reflect on him. He's probably been told to keep quiet, keep everything under wraps. Because you know what, they always think people forget, and people do forget. You know, life goes on, doesn't it? Other big stories come up. But I found it really interesting to watch that interview again in the view of what's happened since. And I thought he was lying then, and I think he's lying now. I think it's transparent. His lies are transparent. And, you know, Britain will never be a fair society as long as there's a royal family, in my opinion. And there'll always be things going on. He's saying about trying to... You know, at the end of the day, the royal family, they are normal people. You know, they're not gods. They're normal people, and they have human frailties and they have human problems. The families have problems. You know, the sooner they admit that, the better, really, instead of trying to say, oh, they behave on the, you know, what did he say, the utmost standards. You know, just forget it. You don't. So, you know, twonks are us, yeah. How are you, Heather? How are you feeling? Hope you're well. Anyway, that's it. So thanks for looking through it with me. As always, leave your comments. What do you think? There may be somebody out there who thinks poor Andrew. I'm sure there are people out there. I've never come across anybody yet. Oh, it's a dog saying hello. Hello, baby. Come here, and then they can see you. Let's see. It's Tia. Yeah, she's beautiful. She's beautiful. So, yeah, there might be somebody out there who thinks he's great. I don't know, but I can't say I've ever heard anybody say he was. Okay, so take care. I'll see you really soon in the next video. Oh, and more, you know, really important, rest in peace, Virginia. Because I think Virginia, at least you brought all this into the limelight, into the light. You know, we would never have known, would we? We wouldn't have known. So thank you for that. And she's probably helped a lot of other young girls. And as I say, if it wasn't for Virginia and those other girls who came forward, so there's 3 of them now that have taken their own life, 3 of Epstein's victims that have taken their own lives, of which, of course, Virginia is the most high profile one. If it wouldn't have been for those people speaking up against Epstein, he would probably still be doing it now, wouldn't he? Still be doing it now. Hi, Seffi. Oh, was it this that brought you into social media, David? Oh, well, that's good for the rest of us. That's something positive for the rest of us, because we like you being here, don't we? Hello, baby. Okay, so thank you, as I say, for watching. I'll see you really soon in the next video. And until then, as always, may your God go with you. And please don't forget to like and subscribe if you're not already subscribed. Bye.